Today we're here to expose some Malzahar gameplay at 3 differing rank points. We're here to find out what is the difference. What are they doing differently with their early lanes, their mid game, their team fighting, their ability usage. If you're looking to find out more about Malzahar, maybe because you're looking to get better at Malzahar yourself or learn how to deal with Malzahar, this is the video for you. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So taking a look at our first OPG, we have Weddle from the EU West server, a definitive bronze player, been bronze for the past few splits since 2023. We are now 72 games deep on Mal's this split with a 54% win rate. They're actually doing a pretty good job. I mean, if they actually weren't playing all these other champions, they probably would be climbing out through bronze. Now, if we take a look at the KDA, relatively high deaths, 5.6 average deaths per game, but relatively high kills and high assists, which suggests a little bit of a coin flip player, maybe not valuing their life all that much. Now, the first thing that really jumps out to me, guys, look at the setup. This guy's opting in for a very aggressive setup with the Ignite in a lot of these games when basically every single champion is playing, whether it's Fizz, Victor, Caitlyn. Look at that, the Caitlyn with the with the fleet and the Ignite. So look, typically not something you see with a ton of, especially the lower elo, Malzahars. You really want to simplify your early lane. Take TP. It's good for minimizing, good for mid-game adaptability. Although you can go Ignite in some lower range matchups. Now, in this particular game, we're going to be taking a look at a 8 and 10 Malz v LeBlanc lane. Very heavy trading matchup. And if we take a look at the build, so like we're mentioning before, Ignite, a little bit aggressive. Definitely going to cause some problems for our resets, though. Now, we've opted in for a hyper-aggressive area over the Comet. I don't mind area on Malz. I think it is completely fine, especially into lower range matchups. But secondary precision, again, so this whole identity of this build, right? You've got it looks like they've rushed Rylai to an earlier spike. They've gone for Ignite. They've gone for Airy. They've gone for Presence of Mind. This all suggests an incredibly, aggressive, fast-paced, go kind of mentality, which is, again, I would argue maybe not the greatest thing to do in bronze. We'll see how it goes. I would much prefer a slower setup TP, maybe even the Comet, maybe even secondary inspiration, magical footwear, that sort of thing. And even, Blackfire Torch first, then potentially into Leandry's. But, rather than talking about it, let's go ahead and take a look at some Bronze 2 gameplay. So diving onto the Rift here, this is the spicy Malz v LeBlanc matchup. Now, while we're loading onto the Rift here, let's spend a little bit of time kind of recapping Malzahar's reference points. So in bronze, from a Malzahar, what I'd be looking for is a very conservative way of playing, really minimizing, that levels 1 to 6, kind of trying to minimize your weak early lane phase, keeping distance, not getting hit by those LeBlanc Ws, and then really starting to get, once you start to get 3-4 points in your E, you can really just start engaging in that offense as defense kind of strategy where you're just constantly pumping out those waves with your E and your W. And I'm sure many of you watching this have been on the receiving end of versing a Malzahar. I mean, you either love him or you hate him, whereby you're just constantly having to respond to those EWs. And this is what kind of makes, Mal such an effective champion in bronze. The early lane strategy is very simple. The execution of it is very simple. And then post 6, I mean, you have obviously great 2v2 threat, great gang setup. And then even if nothing happens, you scale amazingly into front-to-back team fights moving into the mid game. So we don't need to feel pressured to get shit done. All I want to see, though, is neat and tidy resets, neat and tidy, last hits, and hopefully just, preventing ourselves from dying to ganks. So what I'm going to be looking for here in terms of the matchup specifics, look, I wouldn't expect, much sophisticated matchup understanding, but I would expect just some basic respect of LeBlanc's W. And look, if we can see this sort of thing where LeBlanc's W in the wave and we're eating the wave, thumbs up, we're in a really good position because LeBlanc's not using that W onto us. We're going to get free scale, and then we're going to get to the point where LeBlanc's just going to be pinned under tower. Okay, so we've already got the shove here, which is great. You can tell LeBlanc does not know what to do here in terms of the matchup. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a successful bronze LeBlanc, unfortunately. We get that level 2 first, and then already now, this is where I'd be wanting to see EWs on the wave, making LeBlanc react here, and then basically crashing this wave so we don't get the wave stuck in this sort of location, right? Malzahar either wants the wave definitively shoving or definitively crashing, or again, out here so we can slow build, or again, shove the wave from a conservative position. This sort of wave state is kind of like what we've been seeing in a lot of these bronze reviews. It's kind of the doomsday wave state where You're more vulnerable to trades in the 1v1. You're more vulnerable to ganks. Literally every aspect of the lane gets harder when the wave's stuck in this location. So we need to do whatever we can to make sure we get the wave out crashing and then bring the wave back out to a more conservative position. So beautiful. We use that E here. We should be able to crash that wave, which is great to see. But again, worth noting, there is no ward. So we have not warded. We're not leaning. So fingers crossed that Gragas doesn't come by. And so as we can see here, the trades will go well for Malz, assuming that you don't get hit by the LeBlanc W. The moment you get hit by the LeBlanc W, that's where LeBlanc can really start to stat check you here. So here we go, constantly EWing the wave. Excellent. Pretty straightforward. I mean, already we're starting to see how infuriating dealing with Malzahar is. Now, one thing I would keep in mind is notice the passive. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand this about Malz. Obviously, if you're a Malz player watching this, you would already know. But, preventing yourself from getting hit by damage and allowing that passive to come back up is a huge game changer. So there was no reason here for Malz to walk up into the tower and look for this trade. Number one, because the wave's already crashed. But number two, our passive's coming up in 9, 8, 7 seconds here. So if we just chill, right? There's no reason to walk up. Let the wave come back into neutral. By then, you're going to have your passive back up, which will make it very difficult for LeBlanc to actually take a good quality trade onto you here. And on top of this, if we take a look at this trade, what are we doing here, right? This is not really what we want to do. We're walking up into, full melee range. LeBlanc's able to land every single bit of the combo. We used our W late, so we didn't block the chain. You can use the Void Links to block the chain, which is another reason why this matchup is not too bad if the Malz knows how to play it. But yeah, taking a very unnecessary heavy trade. Now remember, guys, this Malz has also opted in for Ignite, so we don't have access to TP, which means resetting we need to be way more important. If you're watching this and you take combat spells, you're taking, your ghosts, you're taking barriers, you're taking, shit like that, that's fine, but you need to make sure that you're hyper intentional about when you're going for a recall. So already now, we could probably just collect this wave here and then recall. So go for another EW, EW here. Looks like Gragas comes through. We should be completely fine. We're in a little bit of trouble here. LeBlanc's doing a very good job of zoning us from the wave here. I think the wave after this is a cannon, so you could probably just stick around a little bit longer. The wave's in a very conservative position. We don't need to rush here. Okay. So as long as we're respecting that W, which we're not doing a great job of, that's what will really make the lane a lot easier. But every single time we get hit by one of those Ws, that's where our life's going to be quite miserable. But here we go. Utilize that strong wave clear. Boom. Please tell me we reset. We're sitting on a decent amount of gold here. No reason to stay, even though it's not a cannon. It doesn't matter because LeBlanc has low wave clear, right? We've one-shot that wave. Just quickly take the Allen base. We've got a decent amount of gold. So again, they're not recalling. Now, something you can do. So let's say hypothetically you wanted to greed for another wave here. The way you would do it in a conservative way, guys, is that you could fake recall. You can sit back over here out of vision so LeBlanc doesn't know what you're doing. And then LeBlanc's going to think that you're recalling. Then LeBlanc's going to use all of her abilities on the wave. And then you could come up and then you could, smash the next wave safely, right? So that is something you can do. But now LeBlanc knows that you're sitting in lane on low resources and can probably just walk up and WEQ you. So we'll see what happens. We have got our passive back up. Here we go. You can tell they're also a little bit confused about how to use the Q. To be fair, it is not easy to use the Q because LeBlanc's quite slippery. Typically, you would want to EW and then try to Q the LeBlanc while they're in front of you and then silence them and get the refresh on the E. But again, it's easier said than done. But yeah, I mean, we're starting to see the challenges of us, not taking TP. We overstay and we get punished. And LeBlanc, very well played. Procs that Electro, doesn't even have to use Ignite, and we just get solo killed. So why? Guys, that's really the question. Why did we stay? Why didn't we leverage our shove into a reset? I don't know. Maybe he wanted to greed, but he wasn't even going Lost Chapter, so it's not like he wanted to stay for 1200. So I don't know. I have no idea what the psychology is there. Maybe resets is obviously something this person needs to work on, right? So we've come back for the blasting one. As we mentioned in the itemization section, typically you don't see Rylai's rush as much nowadays. It's not that it's terrible. It is okay. But I think just from an ease of execution, like just rushing the Lost Chapter and then working towards your Blackfire Torch will just be a little bit easier, right? You have more mana, a little bit more haste. It gives you a little bit more freedom in the lane. Okay, so Gragas showing topside. We don't necessarily have to ward right now. The enemy Singe support is also roaming though, and we do not have flash, which is worth noting. Now, at this stage of the lane into LeBlanc, we don't necessarily have to interact, right? The onus is on LeBlanc to interact because we're scaling great. We have ease of execution. What I'd be doing is exactly this, just pumping out these waves with my E and my W. I mean, probably holding these Qs a little bit more, but really just constantly leveraging my high wave clear and then warding and leaning. Because I know that at the moment, if LeBlanc doesn't shut me down in this early lane, it doesn't prevent me from farming, I'm going to become a massive problem moving into that mid game. So already, just, coincidentally, we've taken some excellent trades. We stand our ground here with the Ignite into the E. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. This one's very interesting. So as we can see, this Malzahar has taken Ignite with Aries, so they're a little bit more aggressive. So we go for the straight R, which is a bit of an odd choice. Typically, if we're going to do this, especially if LeBlanc's in close quarter combat, I would much prefer EW, then R. Right? What's the rush? You might as well eat, because now what you've got is that, your abilities are not coming. You're not really utilizing the cooldowns very effectively, right? Because then if you EW first and then you R, when you're in R, your E is going to be coming off cooldown. But here we go. Also, as well, could have seen where the ability was coming out and aimed the Q on the LeBlanc champion model where the abilities actually came out from. Outside of that, though, I do respect the standing of the ground. I do respect the offense's defense there. And it does show me that, this Malzahar player has this idea in their mind of like how it should play out. It's like, all right, I'm going to take this very aggressive setup. I'm going to go early durability with Rylai's, and I'm just going to stand my ground. That works. It can work. It's definitely, a little bit of an unorthodox way of playing the matchup, but I respect it. I definitely respect it. And I don't want to spend too long on this, but an alternate way of playing this whole scenario out would be, okay, why engage here? Why not just wait? Our passive isn't even up. Wait for the next wave. LeBlanc has no pots. You've got 2 pots in your back pocket. Why do we need to walk up and engage here? Now, it'd be very different if our team was hovering us and we're trying to set up a gank, sure. But what happens in an alternate reality where we just back up, we wait for our passive to come back up, we just EW the wave and constantly make her react? She's slowly going to get chunked out. She has no TP. She has no way to recall. We can lane lock her. That way, we don't have to go through all these shenanigans to create a lead. Like, we got a very reliable way of creating a lead. And so what I would really liken this to is this whole idea of small wins versus big wins. People in solo queue, they have this, I would say, especially a lot of low elo players, they're sold this narrative of like, I have to solo kill my opponent. I have to carry all these noobs on my team. And this is something I talk a lot about in my podcast, about the whole idea of like this 1v9, toxic 1v9 mentality. It's like this whole idea of just simply doing your job and playing in accordance to your reference points is something that is just frowned upon nearly in the low elo community, because it's like, again, they've seen all these videos from high elo content creators saying like, these people are trash, you should be able to stomp them, and they see these games played on unranked to master series where they're playing in lower elos and see these people get multiple solo kills and multiple kills, and their perception of what it takes to climb through the solo queue ladder is just completely distorted. And we're seeing this Malzahar, that they've been sold this narrative already. I mean, I am putting on my armchair analyst cap here for a second, armchair psychologist cap, whereas like you can see with the build and the setup and the way they're playing this, they are kind of overcomplicating it. Where are the resets? Right? Where is the neat and tidy gameplay? Where are the Malzahar reference points? We're really, really injecting a lot of unnecessary chaos here. Okay, so we do end up taking the base here, which I do like. I like how we definitively took that reset. We're now working towards that Rylai's like we mentioned before. Top lane struggling a little bit here. Twitch struggling a little bit here. So the game's not easy. Everyone's kind of struggling here. But again, we're farming relatively well. That's one of the little things that Malzahar allows us to do quite well, is just really nail our farm, because it's just very easy to farm well on Mals. And now at this stage, you've got 4 points in your E. At this stage of the game, we can really just use offense as defense. So just keep pumping out these waves, constantly EW here, and yeah, make this LeBlanc react. So I would want to see some beautiful warding and leaning here as well, especially since Mals does not have flash. Beautiful combo. We actually get the reset on the E with the Q and then R. I love this. I actually really like this. Arguably maybe we could have kept our distance a little more here, but I actually think this is okay. LeBlanc went for the double, for the double distortion, and we're going to take the damage anyway. So let's go. We E, and then we get the W into Q, so we get the reset on the E with the Q, and then R. I love that. I think that's really, really, really nice. Great decisive play. And I will say, as a general theme, if you're watching this and you are in the lower elo brackets, or maybe you have friends that are in the lower elo brackets, like you kind of do want them to get comfortable, like limit testing a little bit. As long as it's within within kind of like the boundaries of what your champion is fundamentally trying to kind of do, then it's okay. But that's an example of LeBlanc was trading anyway. I have no choice. You went for the double distortion. Let's go. Let's have a crack. Rather than just running away and being ultra conservative, let's have a crack. So this is where, again, it's probably a little bit overkill though, right? Right? Because we're not trading over any waves. We've got a pot in our back pocket. We've got a significant advantage. We don't need to force anything. We have no ultimate, right? So all we need to do right now is wait for the wave to settle and then again continue to EW and lock this guy in lane. Okay, so we're trading our E for LeBlanc's QW, which isn't really going to work out overly well here. We do see Gragas on those grubs, so we know we're not under a ton of threat. We can definitely shove into a reset here very easily. We don't have to reset. LeBlanc is also quite low. We have got Ignite. Might be able to trade 1-for-1 there. It looks like we do. So, look, it's not terrible. We didn't have to stand where we are. Our Malefic Visions probably would have just killed the wave in a very non-committal way. We could have just stood all the way back there and would have been completely fine. And this is the problem, right? When we don't have our passive, and we don't have our ultimate, LeBlanc can just go in freely. There's nothing we can do to prevent her from proccing that Electro and Ignite. So it is what it is. Again, a little bit of disrespect. Okay, so now at this stage, we've got our Rylai's, so we're going to be quite juicy, quite strong. Now, in the later stages, we're not, like I've been saying, at a lot of these lanes is typically around level 9, 10 minutes onwards, we're not really interacting as much, right? We're going to be ping-ponging waves. We want to be making sure that we're hyper aware of our jungler's location and then looking to engage in 2v2s and be there for river skirmishes and leveraging our strong wave clear. Now, if the enemy trades onto us really aggressively, sure, we can take it. But again, I'd be more inclined just to EW like this, boom, and then move over to these fights. No, we don't even have to interact here. Get first move. So in this position as well, a lot of people said, well, I feel like there's nothing I can do. What should I be doing with my time? Well, this is where you can use these windows where you've got, you've already shoved in the wave to get good quality deep vision. Chuck a ward over here, chuck a ward on the Raptors. Give your team a little bit of, safety. Why not? There's not really much else for you to do here rather than sitting under the tower like this. And here we get a little bit tunnel vision on the 1v1. Here comes the Gragas. Gragas ends up messing up the E. I mean, that's the annoying thing about Malzahar's W, can block those, but could have also just R'd, chose not to for whatever reason. We get out of jail there, but we walk back up for some reason, disrespect this guy's threat range, and it looks like we're just going to die. So some questionable threat assessment there, and we did kind of see the high deaths in the OPGG. And what, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like the way I would make sense of this, if I were working with a bronze Malz, this person really needs to spend some very basic rudimentary time looking at some of their deaths and looking at it, just trying to understand how do the kits interact? Like, what does Gragas do? What does Gragas do into Malzahar? You're in a mobile mage. You had no passive. How are you going to prevent Malzahar from throwing that R at you? And I also think this person just very simply would get a lot of value from just warding and leaning and just the basics of calibrating the map state. If we go back here during this sequence, what are we trying to do? Our jungler is just clearing camps. We've got absolutely no vision on the enemy jungler. We're walking up under tower. Just a little bit of map state calibration and a little bit more emphasis on just again, safety would go a very, very long way for this guy. Okay, so I don't think there's too much of this lane phase that I want to go over now. So now what I want to do, I want to start moving into the mid game a little bit here. And I want to start to take a look at how this person transitions into mid game. What are they trying to get done? So we're in a bit of a 1v2 here. I mean, I think just going back to mid and denying farm would be great. I don't know if I agree with the 1v2, but doing a good job at keeping distance. Good job with the spacing here. Go for another E into an R. I mean, played it pretty well. I mean, quite ballsy. Getting the job done. Can't stop the dragon though, but may even be able to get a kill on the back end. The Rylai slow really coming in handy. Ignite, beautiful. Wow. I mean, Malz actually did play that sequence pretty well. Kept the LeBlanc at a tether. Understood that he wasn't under threat because they're full HP and they used a lot of abilities on the dragon. Well played. Good punish of the dragon. I mean, quite honestly, they could have also just gone mid and taken a much more conservative route, but not too bad. So now what I want to do, I'm going to skim forward. We're going to go straight into the 18-minute mark, okay? So what we've got here is it looks like we've broken the mid tower. Bot lane towers are still up and alive. We are 2 and 4. We are about even goal with the LeBlanc. The game's in a very, very even state. Our bot lane seems to be doing a pretty good job, but our top lane's struggling. Our jungler is really, really far behind. And this is where, as we transition into the mid game, Malz is really going to thrive because what do we see in a lot of these bronze games, guys? We see a lot of ARAMs, right? We see a lot of team fights, and Malzahar loves that. So making sure we're setting up vision around the next major neutral objective, playing in accordance to our teammates' location, parking ourselves up in these nice little kind of choke points, we should be completely fine here. So we see Dragon coming up. We've set up some beautiful vision. This is great. I love this because the moment they walk in, we can CC. I mean, maybe a little bit trigger happy. Again, our team wasn't in location. If center was like a tiny bit closer, what you could do is you would get the ER into the center route, and you could probably even just get a 100-0 there with the Twitch in the center. Good intention though. I like fundamentally getting to the neutral objective early, putting your body in the area, setting up vision is really good. And I like that they just pulled the trigger. I think that's an excellent kind of thing to do there. Obviously, execution could be tightened up a little bit, but the premise is solid. Premise is definitely solid. And in this game, as you can see, LeBlanc's really, really struggling. I mean, Malzahar becomes a massive nuisance. I don't know if I agree with the flash there, even if we do get the kill, because what are we going to turn it into? We've already chunked this guy out anyway, but that's okay. I don't want to be too harsh on that. And again, your team's pressuring bot side river. Why are we hitting the tier 2? Just shove the wave with your EW and move in and complement your team. I get it. You don't have R, but it doesn't matter. You can just be there to kind of be a little bit of a guardian. Okay, so we're going for the tier 2 siege. We simultaneously are doing 3 things. We're fighting on top side, we're doing the dragon, and we're sieging the tier 2. Bit of a ballsy play here. Here comes the Gragas. And remember, tower damage doesn't mean shit. At the end of the day, tempo and control over tower damage is a rule of thumb that you guys can follow, because tower damage in isolation, unless you're actually going to finish the tower and get the gold, so it's not really going to give you all that much. So we're sitting on 1,700 gold here. We could definitely recall and get an item if we wanted to. Adicon is the next major neutral objective. Looks like they go for a siege with the Rift. We're just trying to defend mid. Malzahar is very, very good at defending towers because of our high wave clear. Okay, so we've seen that this Malz has a bit of a reset problem. Gragas comes in from the side. We pull the trigger. One thing I do want to compliment this Malzahar player on is how decisive they are. They definitely aren't afraid to pull that trigger. All right, so now we've got our second item. We've got our Blackfire Torch. We've got plenty of damage here. And like I said, we really just want to make sure that we're moving into the mid game, playing with our team, playing around neutral objectives, setting up vision, keeping it neat and tidy. We don't want to be going off by ourselves. Malzahar is not a player that does things by himself. Like this sort of thing. We freeze him right now. Look at where we are. Our team is in Narnia. Our AD carry is dead. We've got waves that need to be attended to. That we're not doing Adicon. We're going up here by ourselves. This is where we're very, very, very vulnerable. So we'll take a look. We'll see what happens. Here comes the Gragas again. We get Odd. Here comes the Singed. And we just die. Just like that. I mean, we do get the tier 2, so it's not like we trade our life for nothing. But again, guys, we're desyncing ourselves with our team, and this is where solo queue gets very messy. And this is where that death cycle can start, where we die, someone else goes in, they die, and then if you're ever confused about why your games feel so incredibly messy, it could be that you're desyncing yourself with your team. You're dying on the map when your team is not in position, or vice versa. So let's go. Let's get into the weeds here. Let's go right into the thick of it. We're getting into the 27-minute mark because obviously that transition there was always going to be a little bit messy. There's not a ton of macro going on. It looks like we've got 3 dragons in our back pocket. So we've got a beautiful dragon win condition, soul point. We've got Teemo 3 items. We're on nearly on 3 items. Baron is the next major neutral objective for now, or we can just stall out to the dragon. And we're just trying to keep this mid wave shoved out. I mean, there's no point really going bot. Bot wave's already shoved out. Top wave's already shoved out. I don't mind a bit of an ARAM. This is the El Clasico bronze ARAM. Beautiful. Pretty straightforward. Remember what I always say, guys. If you're ever in a position where you're sieging tier 3s, you know that you're probably messing up, because this is where we get a little bit overextended. We get a bit excited, but we go in. We get the R onto the Singe. This Singe support is having a bit of a roughie, 1 and 8. And this is where I'd be really trying to get my team excited to disengage, really. Being back. We've used our ultimate. We've got the pick. Here we go. Here's the Jax TP. We don't have our ultimate. We've overcommitted. Remember what I say about the tier 3 sieges. It leaves us exposed. People can TP flank. All this shit can happen because we're so far overextended on the map. Now, thankfully, we're quite strong. Teemo and the Mals are able to kind of peel back, but again, a lot more complicated than it needs to be. So please reset, Malzahar. Please reset. You're sitting on 3,000 gold. You don't want to be entering the Guinness World Records. Even this staying for this inhib, it doesn't matter. Even whether or not we get the inhib, it doesn't matter. I would even argue that you could even play for tempo. But please, as long as we reset here, holy moly, we're going for another wave. 3,300 golds. Get the hell out. Massive overstay. And we've seen a big trend with this Malzahar player. Resets are a problem. I would say two things. He's not understanding his vulnerability on the map in terms of calibrating his position relative to everyone else on the map, but also just loves sitting on the map with a lot of gold. He ended up buying like a straight up death cap there, basically. So now if we fast forward, Dragon probably going to be the next major neutral objective. I don't think anyone's going to be doing Baron anytime soon. So we got Dragon coming up in a minute. This is Soul Point. So here we go. Okay. This will be a huge pick. If we can get this pick before the Dragon, this is massive. Massive. Really, really, really good. We can just collect this wave here and then move straight back to Dragon. Dragon. Where's the Dragon, guys? Gragas is dead. You want the free soul or not? Okay, so LeBlanc essentially just one-shots us. And when Malzahar doesn't have R, you have no R, you're a sitting duck. You have very, very limited self-peel. And in this case, we have no passive, no R. And the worst thing, we walk into W range, so LeBlanc is able to get straight into W range, and then we just get one shot there. So all we had to do is keep distance, loop around, wait for our passive to come back up, walk up to the Dragon, and we would have easily won that fight. We've seen throughout this game some very unsophisticated threat assessment into the LeBlanc, which, it's fine. It's not really going to prevent this Mal's from getting to silver, but definitely could be spending a little bit more time reviewing those deaths in the post game. And now it looks like the game is an absolute shit show, a shamozzle. We lose the Dragon, and now if we fast forward, it turns into ARAMs upon ARAMs, which is not really overly interesting here. So, look, what we're seeing here from this bronze player. Number one, resets, problematic. Even if they go ignite, because Mal's has high wave, we need to be tightening up our resets. We did see some very decisive Rs, though. I don't mind the decisive Rs. I think, they pulled the trigger, weren't afraid to pull the trigger, which was really good. I definitely think their map state calibration. This person is the definition of tunnel vision. I see a wave, I want to go for it. I see a tower, I want to go for it. Where there's very, very limited understanding about where I am in relation to my team and using that information to dictate when I need to actually back up a little bit and be a little bit more conservative. There is not much valuing our life. And as you can see, we're moving into the 33 minute mark with 7 deaths, guys. This is unacceptable, right? There's definitely some this Mal's really needs to spend a lot of time reviewing those deaths, calibrate that map state, tighten up those resets. So overall, bit of an interesting start here. Let's continue on and move on to the Emerald Malzahar player. If you're looking to get your questions answered by myself or high-level coaches, check out our free school community. This is where you can ask questions. You get access to free high-quality content. We have our climbing masterclass, champ pool masterclass, and regularly updated solo queue tier list for every single role, every single rank, updated patch to patch. If you're interested, link in the description below. See you there. Moving on to our second Malzahar player. We have ourselves an Emerald 3 Malzahar main. This person has been kind of sitting at Platinum/Emerald for quite a long time now. They've played the game for a very, very long time. Now, if we take a look at the OPG, just straight off the bat, what do we see, guys? 8.4 deaths per game. This is a problematic player, right? And if we take a look at the OPG, they've got games where they do okay, right? 10-3, but then 2 or 3 games later, they're going 9-13, or they go 5-7, 4-10, very high deaths. What the hell is going on here? I don't know. We're going to try and get to the bottom of it. Now, we're going to be taking a look at this one here, this 5-7-7 loss. Now, the reason I wanted to pick this one here is because it looks like a pretty even game. It went for 28 minutes. Everyone kind of did relatively okay. I think there was a lot we could probably learn from this one. Now, just quickly taking a look at their setup, they've gone for obviously a lot more scaling. Right? They've gone for the Gathering Storm over the Scorch. They've gone for the Comet over the Airy. They've gone for the Magical Footwear Secondary Inspiration, which I personally love, scaling HP, which is good to see. Now, in terms of build path, This Malzahar is going for Malignance over BFT. Now, there's a lot of controversy around these choices. Obviously, Malignance is going to give you that ultimate cooldown, which is great for Malz because you really want your R up as much as possible, and also because you're keeping in place. You're going to have that. You're going to really make sure that you're leveraging the what's it called, the burning of the ground there for that additional damage. So it is very good. I like it. I personally am probably a little bit more of a fan of BFT at the moment, but that's personal preference. They've opted in for the secondary item Leandros, which is good situationally when they're stacking HP. In this game, it looks like we're versing a Rise, so it wouldn't surprise me if you're going to get a lot of value from the Leandros second item, and then Rylai's as a third item, which is always very good for Malz, for keeping them in combat, shredding them down with your Ws, and gives you durability. So I think build's fine. I have no problem with the build. I actually don't even mind going a little bit more of a scaling build as well on Malz. I think that makes a ton of sense. And I'm glad to see we're going TP over Ignite. Now, let's go ahead and get onto the Rift here. So right off the bat, I mean, we're not versing the highest threat comp. Very, very low range. I mean, the only champion that I would see as pretty problematic would, I guess, be Pantheon Dive, which is definitely worth noting. And I guess, look, Malzahar Rise can be a little bit annoying, right? And the reason Rise can be a little bit annoying is because he can kind of destroy our Voidlings very easily, and he can basically bounce his EQ, between our Voidlings. So we do go for a level 1 ward. No, we don't. Okay, we're just trying to show our dominance. I don't know what the hell the Malz is doing here. So very, very aggressive positioning in the jungle, completely by themselves. Okay, looks like they're trying to get a ward somewhere. I don't know. Typically, if you can already get the ward, why not? We're already going for a bit of a vacation. We don't want to be late to lane here. Already off the bat, a lot of chaos. Burn the barrier. And we do get a kill, which is really quite big. Now, we may miss some melees here. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, so we end up missing 2 melees worth of XP. Not off to the greatest start there, but the kill kind of evens it out a little bit. So let's just talk about Malz into Rise, right? So, at the end of the day, we have a lot of kill threat onto Rise post 6 with our jungler. Kindred plus Malz, really, really good 2v2. Brand's not really going to offer a ton of threat onto us, which is obviously great. And it's really about just making sure that we're trimming these waves. We're not allowing the Rise to shove us in massively. We're doing our best to use offense as defense. And like we are here, leveraging our auto attacks and E's to trim the wave and create a bit of space for us to farm here. Now, look, we haven't warded yet. That's okay. Again, you're versing a Brand, not the end of the world. But here, these are the sorts of trades you would really want to avoid, right? If you're ever getting in close quarter combat, Rise is probably going to fuck you up. Right, and the reason for this is that Rise is one of the best close quarter combat fighters in the game because of just high base damage on your W. You've got pretty good, just high base damages. The downside of Rise, obviously, is that you have 0 mobility, and yeah, you're very, very vulnerable and low range. So it's hard to get in range to get that damage off in the first place. Okay, so Malz is doing a pretty good job so far. Hopefully Brand doesn't come through and do a bit of a drive-by gank. You might as well get a ward out anyway, right? There's not really much else you're doing here. I don't like this Q. That's a massive commitment of mana. And again, we're walking in range and getting E'd for no reason, which is resetting our passive. So some sloppy spacing there. I don't like this Q on the back. Why are we queuing the back line, right? There's no point queuing the back line here because you really want to focus down these minions first, and then you would queue them later on. But looks like they've definitively decided they want to reset on this wave. No, they don't want to recall. I don't know what we're doing here. We could potentially try to stall it out for 1200 and try and get a lost chapter on our first base. We definitely could, right? We definitely could. We're healthy enough, and we still have a pot in our back pocket here. So as you can see, notice whenever we start spawning our Voidlings there, Malzahar is Rise is shredding them down with his EQ, which is very annoying. These Qs, don't do that. Don't do those Qs. You're just going to go, right? We need to conserve our mana for our EW and Qs later on when we're exploding the wave. That Q's not going to do anything. We're not resetting an E on them. We're not chunking them enough to get ganked. It does absolutely nothing. Very undisciplined ability usage there. Okay, so it looks like Rise is committing to the recall. We can kind of match here. I don't think we're going to have enough gold for Lost Chapter here. We'll see. It's going to be very, very, very close. We may have to wait in base for a little bit of gold here. We'll see how we go. It depends if they want the Lost Chapter or not. Yep, so it looks like they're selling the pot and waiting in base for the Lost Chapter. So at this stage, we're approaching, we're not level 5 yet, so not that close to level 6. And now that we've got a few points in our E, we can just start really using offense as defense here. I don't mind that initial queue there because we're sitting on high mana and we can proc the bone plating non-committally. Nice little trade there. As you can see, Rise is tunnel visioning very, very hard on bullying the Mals and trying to go for those kind of EQs through the wave. But then in the process of doing so, we end up landing our E, and then again, the EW just shredding that Rise on the back end. So really, really nice trading there. I would like to see some warning here from the Malzahar. One thing we could be doing with our positioning is we could be standing a little bit further away from the wave. So here, notice how we're standing quite close to the wave because of our lack of warding and leaning. So when Rise is going for these EQs, they're bouncing on top of us. And if we weren't getting hit by those EQs, maybe there's a chance we can get our passive back up, or again, we just won't take unnecessary damage. So this Malz, you can tell, is the sort. I'm gonna jump to a bit of a conclusion here. This Malz is the sort of player that is very, very tunnel vision heavy. They're getting super excited. How do I solo kill this guy? Solo kill, or just, if someone's low, they're going to really do everything they can to kill rather than protect themselves. Like if we freeze frame right now, we don't know where the brand is. We don't know where the Pantheon is. We have no idea where anyone is, and we're half HP with no passive. So, you can tell already off the bat why this Malzahar is dying as much as they are, flashing aggressively. We actually, at this point, by the way, when this guy was flashing in, did we even see Pantheon? How do we know where Pantheon is? So here we go. Pantheon still hasn't showed. We get that level 6. So we went for a flash EWR on this Rise under tower with 0 vision. So maybe they're just content trading 1 for 1. I don't know. But very, very lucky. It just so happened that Pantheon wasn't roaming and was just staying bot in the bush, and we don't know where Brand is, and it just so happened that Brand wasn't here. So look, again, very decisive. I respect it from a solo kill, just from an understanding of limits perspective. Do I respect it holistically as a mid laner? Probably not. And this is the theme that, time and time again, we're seeing. There is this players in League, they're very, very good at knowing what they can do, but they're not very good at understanding what they shouldn't do. That green light, red light concept is quite foreign. So anyway, take a look at the game holistically. Garen is chomping this Mundo to bits. This guy's maybe watched a bit of Alois, got a bit excited playing that Mundo. Bot lane also struggling pretty hardcore in the 2v2, and Kindred not off to the greatest start. So we're rock and rolling though. Now that we have no flash, no ultimate, we're in downtime. Chill. No R, no play. Malzahar is a very R-reliant champion at this stage of the game. We just need to slow it down, value our life, protect ourselves at all times. We've got a giant target on our back. When we're playing in a mobile mage, we've got a giant target on our back. So here we go. Pantheon comes through. And what was Mal's doing? We actually did see Pantheon before, by the way, I think on this ward, and maybe they didn't spot it. It's hard to say. But, this ward is kind of shit anyway. I mean, what's that ward really going to do? I don't think there's any point warding in that location. If you're going to ward properly. Okay, so Pantheon comes through. We may just survive there. Kindred comes through. Might be able to... No, we don't have our ultimate, so there's not really much we can do here. The good thing about Mal is we have good wave clear, so we can just EW, boom, and just go for a recall. Great. This is one of the superpowers of Malzahar. Just get that wave into a recall on the cannon. Where was the reset? Okay, so Rise ended up looking for a bit of a roam here. We actually do ping, which is great to see. We actually see the mid laner ping their counterpart. Very rare you see that. So because Rise is roaming, we see Brand, we see Pantheon, we can stay for one more wave here. Good. I'm glad that we don't compensate or do anything funky. Excellent. So game's not looking easy for Malz. Everyone's struggling here. We're going for a bit of a roam play. We do have ultimate. I thoroughly dislike this play personally, right? And the reason I dislike this play is we're sitting on a decent amount of gold. We're low as hell. We need to get back on the map so we don't lose farm on mid. I mean, look, the positive is that your jungler is in the area and Garen, is probably killable with our ultimate, and Garen does have a bounty. Is it the play that I would make? Probably not. But look, it's actually not that bad. It's actually not terrible, because worst case scenario, if you go top, Mundo can TP mid and cover mid, and then we can shove this one out. Like, let's say it doesn't work. So I probably would have just liked to see here, just him stay here anyway, try to make the play happen. Mundo can TP mid, cover mid, and then we just shove out top, and then we can swap afterwards. That would have been a bit of a neat and tidier way of playing it. So here we go. We go for the E, Q. Even trading 1-for-1, I don't mind, assuming we get the bounty. Hopefully Kindred gets it. Mundo gets it, unfortunately. Not too bad. If we take a look at the execution, though, holding off on the W would have made a lot more sense. This Malz, for some reason, used EW on the wave. So now what happened? We had no EW here. So because we theoretically could have EWQR'd onto the Garen, and a Garen may have actually died there. You know, and then we wouldn't have died. So a little bit of a weird execution there from Malz, a bit unfortunate. Okay, so we've now got our Malignants. We're in, again, bit of a downtime at this stage. We don't have our ultimate. There's not a ton we can do. Everyone's kind of struggling, so we've just got to sit tight, keep focusing on our farm, ward and lean, protect yourself at all times. When you don't have flash, we need to really emphasize that threat assessment. It wouldn't surprise me if Ryze is going to be doing a lot of shoving and moving. This ward is abysmal. Why not ward over here, right? There's just a lazy ward. And then, you know, this is the thing with Malz, that you should have a lot of confidence knowing that if the game does slow down, you know, and the game does, for whatever reason, get to front-to-back team fights, you're going to be in a relatively okay position. Okay, considering this is a pretty hard matchup, and then Malz has actually played it okay, this Kai'Sa is going to be a pretty big problem. Pantheon showing on bot side. I do not like roaming top here. I'm glad we don't commit to that one. Let's take a look at this trade here. So it looks like this must have been warded. Ryze spots us on the way through. We could have easily EW there. We're a little bit slow, but that's fine. We kind of even out the trade a little bit there. EW. Good. And so now what we want to be doing is we want to be shoving and hovering our jungler. So whatever the side of the map our jungler is on, we want to be there. So if our jungler's hovering on bot side, we should be shoving and hovering bot side. The likelihood that we're going to solo kill a Ryze with Catalyst is next to none. If we're ever using our R like this and we're not getting a kill, that is a giant problem because you're so tied to your ultimate, and especially in a game like this where, you know, your R is absolutely crucial. I mean, you're the one soul-fed member. You can't be wasting your R. This guy's got a null magic. Your jungler's nowhere in the area. He's basically full HP, has a catalyst. There's no way in a million years we're going to kill this guy. So, look, I respect it from a limit testing perspective. Whether or not this was done out of frustration, I don't know. What would have been a lot nicer is just chill, keep distance, keep doing what you're doing, minimizing, and then shadowing and hovering bot side would have been great. But Pyke does get a bounty on bot, which is great. Shove into another reset. This Malzah's resets has been significantly better than in the previous one, which is good to see. Now, the positive as well, the enemy only have one dragon, and you know, we can slow down this game. We can slow down this game. We've kept our mid lane tower really nice and juicy as well, so it's going to be hard for them to break open this game. And because the enemy are quite low range, we can probably just stall it out. Okay, so I like the hover here. Your jungler's in the area. I respect the hover. This is really, really good. This is Mal's fundamentals. Okay, so yeah, I can see the intention. I can see what he was trying to cook up here. We're in a bit of a pickle. We don't know where the brand is. It looks like we're doing some donuts in the river. Oh man, that's ugly. I mean, look, you know, look, there's some points for effort here. You know, this is where, you know, what are those sports awards, like participation awards? Like, I get it. Like, I can understand what you're trying to do. You just needed to keep distance, auto attack it, push the Garen away. Then you can move over and you and Kindred could probably kill this guy. We fucked it up. We misclicked and now we're in Narnia. I think what would have made a little bit more sense is rather than move back into the jungle where we don't know where Brand is, maybe move up that way and loop around and link up with your Mundo. Probably would have been a little bit nicer. But yeah, now we allow ourselves to get pincered, and yeah, not a very pretty play, unfortunately. But the premise behind compliment to your jungler is completely fine. Yeah, okay, so the game's looking rough, right? The game is looking rough. Mundo's struggling, bot lane struggling. We TP mid to try and keep it nice and healthy, which I respect. It was a big wave. I think that's completely fine. I have been critical of people's TP usage back to lane in the late stages. In this particular case, because bot lane tower is still up, and we do really want to try and keep that mid lane tower healthy, following the principle of the longer we can keep our mid lane tower alive, the longer the game is going to get stalled out. So my entire mentality right now is, again, continuing to complement my Kindred, trade off neutral objectives, slow down the game, and try and get our team to some key spikes here. I love this. I love what Malzahar's doing. We see Kindred hover topside. We put our body in the area. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Beautiful. Good hover. We don't get an assist, but that's completely fine. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So we definitely can't do much into a Rise at this stage. I mean, Rise is very durable, has that Mercs, has very good wave clear. We're not designed to deal with the Rise in the 1v1 at this stage. We don't need to interact, right? So our goal is to ward and lean and complement our jungler and play with our Pyke. These sorts of fights like this where you're fighting the Rise shows to me a lack of understanding of your champ's identity, but also a lack of matchup understanding. And this is what I would call a very, very, very low value death. Because think about it, right? Your jungler is clearing camps. So your jungler is nowhere in proximity, okay? On top of that, you're trying to pressure them out where your top laner is dead and your Lucian is dead. And your Pyke's not even hovering you. So now you're just giving the enemy support a free roam window. This death is now you're just completely desyncing yourself with the team. And very similar to the previous Malzahar player, this is a sign of poor map state calibration. Now, if I were actually working with a client, right? Let's say I was working with a coaching client. The question that I would ask is, were you aware of the map state? Were you utilizing your lull states? And if the answer was yes, and they went for it anyway, that's a sign that they've got a problem with their threat assessment. Maybe they're jacked up mentally. This Malz could be just in a really frustrated state of mind. I mean, we've all been there where you feel like the map is crumbling around you. You don't know how to win the game. You feel like you're slowly bleeding out. And you make kind of dumb, unforced mistakes, unforced errors. So look, I don't want to be too critical there, but also, just being real, it's just an objectively not your time to pressure. We need to understand why that is the case. Okay, so yeah, I mean, look, the enemy have just got their second dragon here. We're still on our first item, working towards our second item. We just need to keep doing what we're doing, right? Keep trying to be there with our Kindred for fights, hover in between the waves, keep this mid tower alive. I mean, bot lane tower still being alive by 1430 is a bit of a miracle here. Kindred's doing the right thing, trying to punish this overextended Garen. Good hover regardless. Unfortunately, it looks like we may lose our mid tower off the back of that. We go for a bit of an R play. Our team's not fully in the area yet, probably a little bit over eager. Unfortunately, Kindred can't follow up, and that's another wasted R. This is true Rs this game, where we've basically got next to no value. Bit of a shame. Poise, guys. And in games like this, the mentality that we need to adopt is protect yourself. I mean, obviously protect yourself at all times, but make the enemy sweat for LP. I don't know how you win this game as Malz. If I'm in this game, I don't know how you win. But all I do know, at least I know what not to do. I don't want to be trying to solo kill the Rise by myself. I want to be syncing up with my team. I don't want to be pressuring the map by myself. And I want to be probably okay with giving a few neutral objectives to get myself to 2 to 3 items. And my Kindred to some items as well. So we're chilling. Looks like lane assignments are likely going to be getting swapped up very soon here. We have ultimate up in 9 seconds. Imagine if we had an ulti here, guys. Look at this. The enemy are not going to play perfectly. If we had our ultimate up here, we probably could have killed that Garen. And this is what I mean. Like, it may not be clear to you in that moment exactly how you win, but if you stay poised and you don't waste cooldowns, there will be opportunities. And look, these are just random kills that we could have got. I mean, we did get, but it could have been a lot easier. So we need to go back bot. I don't know why we're running into the jungle. This here is a giant error. I want to expose this now. This is a problem. So League is a game of ebb and flow. Things happen, right? So we kind of see there's a play happen. This is the play. Everyone's excited. Everyone's going in. Go. Everyone's burning cooldowns. Excellent. Now, but if we freeze frame right now, what we've got is Rise is shoving. So this is good for us. We've got a man advantage. Rise is in the side lane for whatever reason. Garen's trying to twerk on the tier 2. We punish it, right? We punish the Pantheon and the Garen. Great. But now the play's done, right? We've killed them. We've punished them. Great. Congratulations. Now, because Rise has shoved out the side lane, we can't continue to go here, because if we continue this trade or we continue this fight, we're going to be bleeding all of this farm. So the mid game as a mage, and mid game on any champion, is this kind of tug of war where we want to shove the wave out, and when they're reacting, we make a play. And when they're in the side lane, we make a play, and then vice versa, right? And it's whoever can minimize that downtime, but also leverage their uptime, they're the ones that are going to be more successful. Now we're in downtime. We've burnt all our cooldowns. Everyone is resetting. We've got the gold in our inventory. This is time we reset, go back to side lanes, chill, slow down, and relax. And these are these what I call transition periods in between the plays where people fuck up their games massively. And now we're doing, run around the rosy here in the jungle, trying to be, Rambo, gank someone. This is just completely unnecessary. Boom, we die. Yeah, we get a kill, but look at all the farm. We're just going to be bleeding on bot side. It's just, we're now desyncing ourselves with a jungler again. We're overcomplicating it. So that ebb and flow and those transition periods need to be, they need to be investigated. And it's a common learning objective I give a lot of people is go in the post game, go to those pivotal moments and then look at your transition periods after the play. What are you doing after the plays? All right, so the game has, funnily enough, kind of slowly tilted in our direction a little bit here. Now, look at this. The waves in Narnia. It's shoving away from us. There's no reason for us to deploy on bot. If we are coming out of base like this, guys, and we see our wave shoving away from us and it's already in Narnia, there's no point deploying on the map like this. We don't want to be running out of the base like this. We want to be running out of base here. Right? Because there's no way we're going to be going to that wave. By the time we get there, the wave's already gone. So what we should be thinking in our head right here is someone has to react to this wave, whether it's Rise going to be shoving or moving and catching this wave down here, whether it's Kai'Sa going to be catching the wave, or Garen or someone. And when that someone is catching that wave here, that's our opportunity to make the play on mid. So for me as a Malzahar here, I'm running mid, maybe using this portal. I'm going to put my body in the area. And then the moment someone shows here, I'm going to be pinging go, 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 go. Let's get shit done. Right, because look at this. Look how inefficient this path is. We do it. We go all the way here. We do a hook turn, and now we're making the play. But also notice how we haven't made anyone react. No one is reacting to the wave on bot side yet. So we need to be careful. Our Kindra's not in position. Where's the man advantage? What advantage are we playing with? Poor map state calibration. We're running in by ourselves. But Pantheon goes in crazy, and we get a free kill. Welcome to League of Legends, but also welcome to the Malzahar show. We're very good at punishing people out of position. And this is why Malzahar is fundamentally quite good in solo queue up until a point. So yeah, look, we luck out the Pantheon face checks. And yeah, I mean, Malz is very, very good at punishing undisciplined play. So we got Dragon coming up relatively soon. This Lucian is starting to pop off in this mid game. I mean, Mundo's holding on for dear life and minimizing relatively well. Kindred's starting to get there. I mean, I don't like this tier 2 siege. I think we should be resetting, redeploying, getting back on the map, syncing up with our Lucian, and then preparing for the next major neutral objective, and then making a decision. Guys, in mid game, right, if you're a Malzahar, what are you going to do? Are you going to play around the next neutral objective, create that front to back, or are you going to trade it off and then make a pick play on the other side of the map? You can do both. Depends on what you want to do. Now look at this. We're completely desyncing ourselves, right? We're running on the map with no ultimate here. Now we've messed up our tempo. And now look at this. We've got shit going on everywhere. Kindred and Pyke making a play mid. We've got Lucian making a play top. It's just a clown fiesta, right? And we are inherently, right, without us even realizing it, we are facilitating the clown fiesta because we're not thinking about where we need to be on the map in time, and we're desyncing ourselves with our team. Right? And this is the thing. People think, oh, I'm not dying. I'm playing okay. I feel like I'm shoving out waves. I'm being a good citizen. But the reality is that you got to realize what are the consequences of your actions. And sometimes the consequences are, not exactly obvious. All right. So, yeah, nice little pick here. I actually really like the creative positioning. It's obviously a little bit of a sketchy play because our team's not in position, but we might be able to make this quick play and get in and out. So we get the beautiful pick. Disengage, disengage, disengage. We could have run away rather than running into them. Unfortunately, we run into them. Hopefully, Lucian can do something, though. Yeah, so just some problematic map state calibration, and we just could have passed in a way more conservative position. So I'm just going to fast forward a little bit here. Again, we go for some solo ultimates. Try to 1v1 this Rise when we're 2 levels down. We get annihilated. And this is a constant thing we've been noticing. Notice how we're going for these crazy plays by ourselves. Our team's not in position. This person is not even close to dying. They have Seraphs. They have Zhonyas. They have Mercs. All their teammates are in the area. We have no backup. And, we're just going in by ourselves. This is not our champ's identity. The reference point we need to be following here as a Malz is go, catch the shallow waves with your EW, regroup up with your team, and then play with your Kindred, play with your team, right? So that people can follow up on your ultimate. If you've got a Pyke or a Kindred here, this guy probably may potentially die. Okay, and I've already kind of seen enough now. The game's kind of turning into a shit show, turning into a bit of a mess. It looks like, it kind of turns into a back and forth slugfest. This is not really that important to me. So So look, this Miles has his moments, right? He has his moments, but you can kind of see there is very little direction with the mid game. He's not thinking about syncing up with his team, right? He's not thinking about he's not calibrating the map such that he doesn't know that he's overextended or maybe like he's not trying to pressure the map at the same time, but also he's doing things like he's Rambo moving into the jungle by himself when his team are doing something completely different. He also doesn't understand about those transition periods after the plays happen. What you do after that is really going to make or break your mid game. And then also, threat assessment is obviously a little bit of a problem as well. And so we're starting to see a bit of a trend, even with this Emerald and Malzahar. The two ranks, the bronze, the bronze and emerald. There is a lot of very inconsistent map state calibration, and a lot of the time we're trying to do a little bit too much, and just a little bit of poise and a bit more awareness of the map would go a very long way here. So let's continue on. Let's move on. So now we're moving on to the juicy high-low Malzahar OTP. This guy is currently sitting at 732 LP. Now he's the highest ranked kind of major server Malzahar player, right? We're excluding EU, NA, excluding Vietnam, excluding all those servers. We're talking NA, EU, Korea. He's the highest kind of Elo Malzahar player, as you can see, definitively an OTP. A lot of games with Malzahar. Now, props to this guy. Malzahar is not an easy champion to kind of play at a high Elo bracket, especially if you're OTPing it, because there's so many bad games with Malz. Maybe you have too much CC. You have getting outranged. You've got matchups that are just going to bully the hell out of you, punish your early lane phase. I mean, and also in general, people are just way more respectful of your R threat, so they don't give you those free Rs. And people are just a lot more disciplined. So I'm really intrigued to see what this guy is doing to have so much success at a high Elo bracket on a major region server. Now, we're going to be taking a look here at this 8-4 Malz versus Talon game. Now, quickly breaking down his setup here. So he's opted in for the Blackfire Torch, which is kind of what my personal favorite build on Malz is. High damage, high wave clear. Opted in for the second item, Leandris, which I still think is good, even despite the nerfs to Leandris, depending on if the enemy is getting HP or not. And then third item, Rylai. So a very stock standard setup. And it looks like they end up going Bloodletter's Curse as a fourth item, which is interesting. Again, it gives you that kind of that shred, ability, haste, HP, all really important stats for Malz. Now, taking a look at the runes, bit of a combination of lane or a little bit of early laning strength, but also scaling. So I love the Comet, obviously good scaling, good team fighting. But the Scorch over the Gathering Storm, which I think is completely reasonable. You need a little bit of firepower in that early lane. And my personal favorite, Inspiration second, Magical Footwear. We need to be putting all that gold into our AP in our first item, and then double adaptive into Scaling HP. Scaling HP probably makes sense into Talon specifically because he's not really going to be able to punish you in the early lane. So without further ado, let's dive straight in here. Very high elo game. We've got some challenger players in here as well. So definitely going to be an interesting one to look at. Now, we've got Malzahar Viego mid-jungle. Very, very nice mid-jungle. 2v2, we've got excellent threat post 6. If we can land our R on one of these squishy targets and get Viego that reset, that's going to be awesome. Now, this Talon is opted in for Electro-Ignite. We're versing a Diana, Elise. So a decent amount of dive, right? Talon's going in. Elise is going in. Diana's going in. So our threat assessment, our map state awareness needs to be relatively on point. The positive thing I would say about this game from a Malzahar perspective is that we're versing a lot of low range champions. The only person that's high range is Senna. So the rest of these champions are pretty good for us. Malzahar's biggest weakness is dealing with range, right? High range mages, high range champions. So high range AD carries, Caitlyn's and Hui's and Lux's. These are the things that really make Malzahar's life probably the most miserable. Syndra's, things like that. I think Syndra is one of Malzahar's worst matchups. But so yeah, this game's actually not too bad for Malzahar. All right, so it looks like Dinah's trying to go for a level 1 ward. We're trying to defend that. Already some shenanigans. We've got to be a little bit careful here. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Elisa started E. Not off to the greatest start here. Bit of a shame. And we get hit again by the W1, W2. So, yeah, this is pretty brutal. We've got to be very careful here. Malz has Talon has a lot of threat onto us. As soon as he gets level 2, it wouldn't surprise me if he's going to try and flash on our face. So already fast-paced game, and this is one of the things, especially in EU West. EU is a very fast-paced server. A lot of chaos, a lot of shit goes on here. So I really wouldn't want to base if I was him at this amount of gold. I'd at minimum want to get a refill. So it looks like he's trying his best to stick around. He's already popped both of his pots level 1. Man, that sucks. This really, really, really sucks. I mean, poor guy. I mean, he was just trying to defend. I probably would have been a little bit more defensive there, but well played to the Elise for committing to that. And yeah, I mean, Malz is in a hole. So it looks like he does have enough gold for refill. So he could probably stay for this wave and just base TP and get the refill. We'll see what he does, though. Talon is shoving him in. What did I say? As soon as you get hit by that W1, W2, Talon's going to flash Q your face, right? And so, yeah, some sloppy spacing there. To be fair, it wasn't exactly easy. But, yeah, Talon did a very, very good job of weaving in that, that W1, W2, and we get punished. So we're not off to the greatest start. 4 CS by 2 minutes 40. A refill on our first base. Talon's got that solo kill first blood. Holy moly. This is not going to be easy. If we can stop that recall, that would be amazing. Nice. Really, really big. Okay, so this is good. I mean, if we don't die here, this is really big because Talon does not have TP. So stopping that recall is excellent. Very big. It does cost our HP for this, and we know that they know we don't have flash. So it wouldn't surprise me if Diana's got a giant target on your back right now. But, the fact that Talon wasn't able to go to back to base and spend that gold is excellent. Okay, so Diana bot, really, really good. We need to hard shove this next wave into a reset. So here we go. We actually, look at this, interesting. So he actually tries to stop the recall again. So he can posture up nice and aggressively because we did see the Diana on bot side. So look at this, postures up, knows where Talon's highly likely going to be basing, misses the Talon, but good intention either way. And it looks like Talon ends up canceling the base. So we end up just staying for another one here and then EWing. We can easily EW into a reset here again. Beautiful. Very nice. Good leaning on the top side, given Diana was showing on that bot side. Very well done. Excellent reset window. Chooses to stay and wards the Raptors. Now, he can stay theoretically because Talon is very low, right? So we can actually stay, right? And the more gold we can go back to base with, the better. And we know where Diana is. We know that the Elise can't be here because Elise is on bot. So we can definitely get the next wave out for free here. And Malzahar's being annoying. Malzahar's doing a very good job of being annoying and not giving Talon a free recall. Because remember, the moment we match the reset with the Talon and give Talon that free recall, the moment he's going to be able to spend that first blood gold. So it looks like we're going to try and steal the Raptors. Well played. Notice a lot of small things here, guys. Malzahar's stopping those recalls, being very creative with resets, not allowing Talon to get the free reset. Stealing those Raptors, leaning away from the Dyna showing on the bot side, very aware of the map state, even warding the Raptors, understanding that Dyna was going to do take Viego's Raptors on spawn because Viego had overstayed on bot side. So just really good small details there that make the difference. And this is the thing when you're playing at a very high level, especially with these sorts of champions that have a very limited kit, it's the small things that will add up over the course of a lane and over the game holistically. Okay, so Talon's come back with a Dirk. Our objective here, as per usual when we're dealing with Talon, is to basically prevent him from roaming. So shoving in those waves, good quality vision, pinging his roams well in advance, and just making his life as difficult as possible. Making it hard for him to do what he wants to do, and really, really making sure we're farming up as much as possible here. Okay, so let's take a look at the execution here. So Talon is thinking, okay, Malz has no flash, no R. So Talon's probably thinking, I've got Dirk, I'm strong, let's go. So E's over, walks up, goes for the WR, auto Q, and then was going to E out, but the silence came through. So let's just take a look. Did he intentionally hold that silence? That's the question. That's what I'm intrigued with. I just want to see his Q usage here because he could have used it many different times. So he actually didn't have it. So he used it at the start of the wave. And by the way, if we're going to really get nitpicky, he notice how he really focused on the melees immediately. So then what happened is that the tower aggro went immediately onto the Talon. Right, so he bursted down that wave really quickly. So then the tower damage went onto Talon, and then again gets the Q on the back end, so we can't get that E. Well played. Small little attention to detail there makes a big difference. Talon is losing his mind for whatever reason about Dyna not ganking. Welcome to solo queue. So shoves out the wave, and now Malz has stabilized the lane. He's actually now pulled it back, and he's actually up in gold into the Talon, which is awesome to see. Really good poise. So working towards our lost chapter here. Bot lane is very back and forth. Top lane's kind of chilling. Jungle's kind of chilling. The game's very, very even. We're kind of dead even gold at the 6-minute mark. Okay, so now we have our ultimate. which does make things easier. We go for a sneaky little E, get the Malefic Visions onto the Talon and reset it with a Q, which was very nice. We tried to land an R onto the Talon, couldn't quite do it, force him out of lane. Nice little support roam from the Sona here. Very good. And you can already see the stark difference between, supports and junglers just hovering around mid more. Malzahar has incredibly good 2v2 and very good gank setup. And so junglers will start to leverage that a little bit better as you start to get into the upper echelons. Okay, so we've got good vision here. We've got vision in front of the red. We've got this ward here. So we're nice and safe. We don't know where the Elise is at this stage. Elise is not showing. We do have our flash, though, available and passive. Elise showing on bot side, so we know we're in the isolated 1v1 for now. So Malzahar's trying to bait out that W. So you see the mini game going on. So Malzahar's stepping up back and forth vertically. Talon's trying to posture up very aggressively and land that W. So there's a bit of a mini game going on. Now that that W's down, we can be a little bit more aggressive. We get access to the wave. We try to EW it. Talon's trying to stand outside the wave so that the Malefic Visions doesn't spread onto him, which is very smart. So you can see the mind games and the mini game going on here. So this is very advanced, right? A lot of small things, right? So first things first, if we're going to get really technical, what's going on is that Malzahar just wants to EW the wave, but Talon's not allowing him to do so. But then Malzahar throws out the W. Talon goes for a high value W, which kills the Voidlings and basically the majority of the wave. Then Malzahar walks up, finds an angle to E. Now that Talon's W is on cooldown, EQs it to clear it. And then Talon's posturing up to not allow Malz get, continually damage on the wave, lands the W1, W2. And now, this is where it gets very interesting, because now the Talon really wants to leverage those two passive stacks, but Malzahar knows that Viego's in the area. So Malz is actually kind of incentivized to allow Talon to go in, because now we can set up with our gank, with our R, we change CC, beautiful one shot. So we had the beautiful R into the Viego stun, into the silence of the Malzahar, and then this Talon got one shot. Small little details, guys. Attention to detail. That's the aim of the game. Well played. Really, really good awareness. And you can kind of see the next level of awareness, not only in terms of, where the enemy is, but your jungler. What is your jungler doing? Very, very smart. So we end up staying for an additional wave here. We have TP, so we can overstay a little bit. We end up getting the double plate. An argument could be made to just not stay for the plate, just insta-reset spend goal. But if you're willing to use a TP back to lane, then this is completely fine. Looks like we're trying to stay for one more here. Beautiful. Yeah, a little bit greedy there. Looks like Malzahar thought he could just clear the wave safely. I don't really know why he approached the wave in this way. He could have also just backed off. He also got clipped by that W1, W2, and again, doing a very poor job playing around Talon's passive there. I was giving him all that praise before, but I don't really know what he was thinking there. So, very back and forth lane. They're basically dead even. Malz has a slight gold advantage here, but does lose a bit of XP on the back end. Game is pretty interesting. I'm very intrigued to see how this moves into the mid game. So we choose to hold our TP, which makes sense because there's no farm, working towards our BFT. Now, we do not have our R available, and we don't have flash, and we have very limited vision here. So this is where I'd be looking to try and get some vision out whenever I can. And then really trying to just buy time in my downtime, right? Buy time for my R to come back up, try and get some safety. We're warding our Raptors here to defend our Viego's Raptors here, and really trying to slow it down a little bit. So we've probably got our BFT in base now after this wave, so we could probably go for a recall here. Yep, nice. We get that item spike. Beautiful. We're not seeing any 3,000 plus gold reset, which is so far so good. Bot lane very heavy trading. Okay, so now that we're at BFT, we're getting close to level 9 as well. Looks like Talon has a little bit of move. We spot the Talon on the ward. Look at the pings coming out already. Danger, danger, danger. Pinging that the Talon has moved. Scouting with that Q to make sure he wasn't camping the bush. We know that Talon is committing now, so we're moving over. Pinging on my way. We've got the Avengers arriving with the sonar. We've got Shen here as well. Start with the silence so we can't R. EWR. Chain CC, one shot. Great execution. Well done. Good heads up play. So I love the scouting with the Q. I love the controller to make sure they don't know that we're following. Really, really nice. Good also. Nice roam from the sonar as well. Okay, so again, R down. We've just used our R. We're in a bit of a downtime. We clear the wave into another little recall. So it looks like we go for a TP here. We see a lot of action. We don't have our R, but they are very overextended. Try to peel back here and kill the Diana. Lovely. Turn back onto the Elise. Okay, so what the hell happened here? Let's get into that. We got a bit bamboozled. So Malzahar just wanted to peel back. I love this. We're not overcomplicating it. We're not splitting our damage. We're trying to peel back on the Diana. We get the Diana kill, and then Elise basically creates a lot of space and just survives. So not too bad. Nice little creative TP. And that's where that adaptability to chaos really comes into play. If you're a lower tier, Malzahar, if you're in gold and below, I would really keep it neat and tidy. You have no R. I wouldn't be looking for that sort of a play. But when you start to get into the specifics and you realize, okay, what I can and can't do without R, that's when you can start to, and you have a lot of champion mastery, you can start to look for those sorts of plays. Yeah, so moving into the mid game here, we've got a lot of good tools. I mean, Viego, Malz are in a very good position. Lucian's nice and juicy. We've got Sona scaling as well. And again, like I said before, that you're versing a very low range comp, so we're not too threatened. The center is going to be the only one that's a bit of a nuisance. Outside of that, we're pretty happy chappy here. So we've got ultimate back up. We've got flash coming up in 10 seconds. We've got some excellent vision here, so we can lean heavy on some sides. At this stage, we're just going to be ping-ponging waves. We don't really need to interact too much with this Talon. Just keep eyes on him, keep warding, ping his roams, and just keep being a nuisance here. So looks like we get outspaced a little bit, and Talon is able to kind of get on top of us. So what we're seeing here is the mini game, right? So Malzahar's trying to walk up. Malzahar tried to go for a Q, oversteps. Q goes to Narnia. Talon wins the mini game out, pops the Yomos for the movement speed, gets directly on top of the Malz. Q into W1, W2, auto, proc the passive with the ignite. Dinah comes through, and we just survive. So I love the emergency R to try and buy time, but in an ideal world, we're not really getting out space like that. So this Malz definitely has some room for improvement with some of their spacing and tethering. Obviously, there's a reason why they're not challengers. So there's small little details that need to be tightened up there. This Talon's playing quite well mechanically. All right, so we stay for the tower plates here. We use our W. W is very good for getting towers. Really, really nice. Viego and Malz end up finishing the tower, and we get the first turret, which is excellent. Really, really big. Okay, so at this stage, we've got a pretty clear mid to bot. Just leave Shen on an island topside, play away from the Shen, leveraging Shen R. You've got your Lucian rock and rolling on bot side. You've got Viego getting very, very juicy. We're working towards second item, and now we're level 11. If we can just fight with our jungler and play mid to bot, we should be A-okay. Yep, so lovely. Shove and move, hovering our jungler here. Notice how we're not moving bot, we're shoving and hovering our Viego here. Taking that red buff. Spot out the Talon. Beautiful pings. Notice how we're pinging back. We're trying to get our team excited, dissing it. Look at that, taking control. Look in the chat, you can start to see Mal's spam pinging. It's our responsibility to track our counterpart, no one else's. So now what I want to do, I'm gonna skim forward. I'm gonna kind of transition moving into the mid game here, because a lot of people have questions. How do you play the side lane as Malzahar? So this is what I want to get into here. Okay, so it looks like the lane assignments are swapped up a little bit here. Bot lane tower is broken. We've got Dragon coming up very soon. We TP over here to put our body in the area. We don't have our ultimate for another second. We try to regroup with our team. The play looks pretty doomed here. Please don't compensate, Malz. We've got a pretty big bounty. Let your team die. Very good. Peel back. Nice little EQ, QEWR. And we get an excellent pick on the back end. Shen R there as well. Very good. What I love about the way Malz played that is he never put his life in danger. He valued his safety, right? And at this stage, if you're a fed Malz and you've got a bounty, it's all about protecting yourself at all times. Now we can catch this wave, and then we can regroup here for the dragon. We ping on my way to the dragon. Might be able to look for something fancy here. Now, at this stage, we know Fiora's dead. We knew Talon showed topside, so it's only Dinah here. Elise could be coming out of base, but this looks not too bad. Get a bit of a chunk, force the Dinah back, and that should theoretically secure a third dragon here for us and look for a little bit of a shove and move. Excellent. And we're just finding a bit of a farm window here because we know Fiora is mid and we know Talon's top, so we can get the remainder of the wave to make sure it crashes under the tier 2. Sync up our resets with our jungler. right? I mean, I've got this giant smirk on my face because this is exactly what I was talking about in the annual review, syncing up our team, syncing up our plays with our jungler. So here we go. So we've shoved out the wave. There's no point to deploy bot. Remember what I also said about deployments. We don't want to be running bot when the waves in Narnia. Run up through mid, put our body in the area and see what's going on. Right? So now we deploy around top side, put our body in the area. We notice that we've already got complete vision on the enemy. The wave's kind of shallow and our jungler's in the area to give us some safety. So we should theoretically be able to answer this wave. Our jungler's doing a very good job of hovering us. We can turn this into a 2v2 potentially here. Good hold. I like how we didn't do anything fancy with our flash ultimate. See Dinah on the bot side of the map, and now, again, Viego's hovering us. So this is the benefit of a jungler hovering you in the side. If Viego wasn't doing this, what I would prefer is run through mid here, get control through here as a team, then move top side. We can kind of skip that step in this particular case because, again, our jungler is kind of hovering us in this particular area. So then we can actually shove top first and then move mid. This is all dependent on your jungler's location. You can play through top to mid or mid to top. It really, really depends. So very good. Man, Viego's doing an excellent job of just complementing the jungler, complementing the Malzahar, and then creating these potential 2v2s. We pull the trigger. I don't know if I fully agree with this. Does go for the flashy R and we don't get the kill. And the reason I don't like this play is specifically because Viego can't follow up because there's a wave here. So Viego can't get the stun. So that's the problem. And so Viego wasn't really in position, so we don't get the one shot. So look, I respect it from a decisiveness perspective, but yeah, not the right play there. A little bit overforced. We don't need to overcomplicate it. And also, Shen had ultimate in 5 seconds. So let's just chill the fuck out. Chill out, relax. Shen's chilling. We don't need to force a play right now. Looks like they got a little bit excited. Okay, so Atacon is the next major neutral objective. We have TP coming up relatively soon. It'll be interesting to see what Malz does here from a deployment perspective. Will he just run straight to Atacon or will he go top? So it looks like he TP's in here. This is a ballsy TP. His Viego's not here, but he does see Fiora and Diana. I don't know if I agree with this. TP's in. I guess his AD carry and support have moved. So, wow, good play. Really good awareness of the map state. He knows he can do this because he knows that the enemy's out of position. Senna was on top side. Can't be at the play. We see only 2 people here, and we see Diana and Fiora here. So we know they're split. It's a 2v2, and not to mention, it's actually kind of like a 4v2 because we have the the backup here coming in through mid. It's a really nice play. Even though, again, we didn't have our R, it's a creative play that is stemming from good quality map state calibration. So lovely. Looks like we're able to turn that into an Atacon. We keep the mid wave shoved out, and then we can swap the lane assignments afterwards after we get the Atacon. So we try to defend top side. We ideally probably want Shen on bot, and we can hover top side. There's no point in us going bot because the wave's already shoved out. So it looks like we're just trying to chill, establish a little bit of vision with our team. We've got to be careful here. We are by ourselves. I would argue that this is probably a little bit crazy because our Viego's not in the area. I would prefer to go through mid, sync, wait for your Sona and your Viego to get in position, and then we can do this exact same play because right now we don't have backup. So it looks like we just get away with it. The Shen R really does come through. A little bit sketchy. So this Malz has some positives and negatives. They've got those glimpses of very disciplined high percentage play, but then you've got those glimpses where there's still refinement, and that is the difference between Grandmaster and Challenger. I think this Malz has definitely the potential to get to Challenger, but there's just a few little of those moments that we've highlighted this game that would have made all the difference. All right, so we turn that into an inhib. The game's looking very, very good. We have to defend bot here because no one else can. Our entire team is trying to end the game. So shove, 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 shove. We don't have TP. It looks like the next major neutral objective is Dragon. Right, our team is getting collapsed on. There's nothing we can do about that. So we use this as a shove window. Even if our team die, that's out of our control. Shove, 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 shove. And as long as we can get that next dragon, we should be okay. But I think at this stage of the game looks relatively okay. Just keeping these waves shoved out here. I'd be careful about making a play here. Again, why? Our team is not in position. Our AD carry is dead, and our Fiora and our Viego is dead. So regroup mid, keep the mid wave shoved in, buy time for our team to get in position. You don't need to be a hero, Malzahar. So look at this. Senna's very annoying, keeping us at range. Whenever in doubt, shove mid wave. Using our W to block Senna abilities. We go for a nice little ER here, following up on the Sona. Do end up getting the pick there, I think. Well played. And it looks like the game's relatively straightforward from this point. I think the game's basically over from here. They're super, super far ahead. So, look, There's some very impressive things in this game. I mean, what we saw was way more awareness of the map state, a way more intention about syncing up with a jungler. There was way higher quality resets. Warding and leaning was, very, very clean. And then very nice creative TP usage. There was a lot of intention with TPs and hyper aware of where his teammates were. I would say that was the biggest difference. Very, very decisive. And obviously there was some room for improvement with some of those decisive plays playing a little bit too far away from the team or trying to be a hero, every now and then. But overall, you can see the marked difference in the quality of the discipline, the BAP awareness, and just intentionality with every single little decision. So hopefully you learned a thing or two in this one, guys. I thought this was some very interesting VODs, actually. Again, first time seeing these ones. If you have any other questions, let us know and let me know what other champions you'd really want to see. Cheers, guys.